What do you have, Mac? A beer, a burger, place a bet? Anyway, this is Pat and Bonnie with the Pat Folger Realty Group, and today we're going to talk about your offer to purchase. First off, however, I wanted to say is I bartended in college. Al McGuire, my dad worshipped Al McGuire, thought he was the greatest basketball coach ever. Al McGuire once said that everybody should be a bartender and a cab driver at least once.
In their lifetime.
Yeah, so you can learn all the people skills and things of different people that you deal with. But today we're going to talk about offer to purchase, okay? What to do, I guess, and kind of not to do. And well, Bonnie, she's got the dice going.
Well, you shake the dice when you put in an offer.
You
right?
roll the dice.
You
yes,
roll
you
the dice.
Right,
so what do you have
exactly.
to tell us, Pat, about that?
Well, I don't know. What does that mean? You got a 9. So, the first thing you're going to do when you put an offer together, of course, the first thing, of course, is price. All right, so that's the first thing, and then.
Now, what do you mean by price?
Well, you have to start off somewhere. You have to offer a price, and you come in too low, you could offend the seller, and then he won't take your offer no matter what. You know, or you come in, of course, if you come in too high and you accept it immediately, maybe you left some money on the table. So and you have to kind of look at the comparables and everything and determine what you feel the value is. And most people realize is that nobody ever accepts the first offer.
Right.
So if you give him your best shot out of the gate, he's going to probably counter you anyway. So you might need to leave yourself a little bit of room. Oh. So what's the takeaway on price is, well, you can take it individually because you're going to have to, depending on the market, you're going to have to talk about that with your realtor, and you guys are going to have to come up with a plan. Earnest money. Boy, I tell you the truth, is when I first started selling real estate, earnest money was a big deal. I mean, and you had to come in with a very good amount of earnest money, or else people didn't take you seriously. Mm-hmm. And nowadays, since the crash and everything, and boy, I tell you, it's probably 1%. And I've seen people try to write offers with no earnest money, and I get it too, because nowadays we're back to the financing where you can buy a house with as little as 3% down, and so, but
and earnest money was always felt as a good faith.
Well, there's a little bit
right?
of misconception. I mean, we've had plenty of times where the sellers seem to think that if the deal doesn't go, that they get to keep their earnest money. Yeah. And that's not necessarily the case. I mean, the earnest money, the seller may have a right to it if the buyer defaults, okay? Now, however, you're still a good hunk of earnest money, is always makes your offer appear more serious. So I would encourage people always to put down an earnest money, especially if you're putting down a good down payment anyway. I mean, it's not like you're going to lose it unless you plan on walking away. I mean, here, if you put down $1,000 in earnest money on a $300,000 house, come on, right? I mean, it's easy to walk away from $1,000, isn't it? Yeah, heck, it's even easy to walk away from $3,000, right? So you have to understand that if you're a seller and you're looking at alters and you're looking at an offer, and the more earnest money, the more vested the seller would think you are. So, and it doesn't hurt you to put it down. You're going to probably put it down anyway. So I encourage you when you're negotiating your sale to put down a healthy amount of earnest money. The takeaway here is as far as earnest money. Yes, thank you. Earnest money matters, and don't be shy. Mm-hmm. Inclusions. So you're coming into the offer, and the seller is going to have a list of inclusions that he's throwing in already, of course, and you may want some other items in the home,
mm-hmm.
and that's perfectly fine. Except, you don't want to sit there and do this, is to send a seller a low-ball offer and then ask him for a whole bunch of his personal belongings. That just makes them wild, okay? So that's something I would avoid. That's just like poking the bear. So inclusions, I mean, it's perfectly fine if you're negotiating and you're working in good faith and you're getting close to a deal, and maybe all of a sudden there's for instance, a nice table or something that you really would go nice with the home. Yeah, it's fine to ask for it. And a lot of times the sellers are even flattered that you like their things. So the takeaway here, number 3 on inclusions is be reasonable, I guess, right?
Right.
Closing. Okay, now this, of course, a lot of stuff can come into closing. You know, I mean, you may have a house to sell, and so you have to coordinate that with your buyer, right? But one of the things that makes the offer more attractive to a seller is the sooner you close, the better for the most part. You know, time kills all deals, whatever, time drags on. Usually you're a seller, you got your house on the market and they're anxious to move on. And so a long, protracted, drawn out closing, you know, they don't view that. So, you know, I mean, typically nowadays we're closing anywhere from 45 to 60 days on average. So a 90-day closing would be kind of on the outside of that. If you get past that, then you're really looking at a long closing. On closing, my takeaway would be to close as soon as possible. Do not drag it out. Close as soon as you can. That will make it much more attractive to the seller. Home inspection, or as I like to say, to cure or not to cure? Bonnie, that is the question. Well, there's more noble to cure. But anyway, the big issue on that home inspection comes into being is everybody's going to have a home inspection by the most part. And everybody's fine with it, right? There is something that gets to be a little tricky, is that when you do the home inspection, is the seller, you have an option right in an offer. Remember, an offer to purchase is your offer, buyer. As a buyer, this is your offer. So this is, so kind of the trickiest is that there comes a point of the offer on a home inspection contingency where you have a choice of giving the seller the right to cure or the right not to cure, okay? And of course, this gets into the legal world. So I'm not a lawyer, I can't practice law, but the basis of it means is to, for instance, if you come across a defect, and say, for instance, the roof is bad, and you have the home inspection, and you say, well, the roof is bad. So if the seller has the right to cure, you can give him a notice of defect, saying the roof is bad, and he can say, fine, I will fix it. Or he can say, fine, I will not fix it, you know, but, and then you have the option, but he has the opportunity to repair it, okay? If you say the seller shall not have the right to cure, you say, here's a notice of defect, Mr. Seller, your roof is bad, and he says, that's fine, I'll fix it, and you have the right to say, that's okay, you know, we're good, we're gonna go find a different home, all right? And he said, but wait a minute, I'll fix the roof. And you know, that doesn't matter. You know, we're not taking it. So the right to cure means you can walk away from it. So I hope that explains. It's a little complicated, but the bottom line sometimes is that when you're, you know, writing an offer, if you're a buyer, you of course want like the seller to not have the right to cure, so you can have a way out. And if you're the seller, you'd like to have the right to cure. If you really want the house and stuff, and it's a good house, and you can tell it's well maintained, you know, I would counsel you maybe to give the seller the right to cure. So the takeaway on this, the final point, to cure or not to cure, is, boy, to tell you the truth, is you know, it depends on your circumstances, and I personally am a believer that you should give the seller the right to cure. As anything happens, is it would come down to the desirability of the property, okay? If you're competing and you're trying to get this deal, you're probably gonna have to give the seller the right to cure. If you're the only guy in the game, you know, you're gonna probably be able to sit there and let the seller, I mean, get away with the seller not having the right to cure. So, Bonnie, ma'am, lady, she hasn't even ordered a drink yet. This is the worst kind of customer. These are things I think are important that you could work with to make your deal a little more attractive to a seller, depending on how you finesse these. So if you have any questions, give me or Bonnie a call. We'd be happy to answer them, or better yet, give us a call. We'd be happy to write an offer for you. This is Pat and Bonnie with the Pat Folger Realty Group. Thanks for watching.